Bitcoin. It's one of those words that can either start a party or start an argument. Is it the future of money, or is it just a massive high-stakes gamble? Now, while we all have our opinions, the stakes are just a little different when you're a billionaire. Their views don't just move their own bank accounts, they can shake the entire market. So let's dive in and find out what the world's most powerful financial minds really think about it all.
To really get why everyone has such a strong opinion, you've just got to look at the numbers. Back in 2021, the price of a single Bitcoin absolutely skyrocketed past 1 million Thai baht. I mean, think about that. That's life-changing money for just one digital coin. This incredible surge didn't just make early believers rich overnight, it forced the entire world, especially the big players in finance, to sit up and pay very close attention.
But what is this thing, really? Well, at its heart is a technology called blockchain. Now, the magic word on this slide here is decentralized. See, normally, when you send money, a bank or a government is the middleman, right? They keep the one official record book. Blockchain just gets rid of that. Instead of one central book, the record of every transaction is copied and spread out across thousands of computers all over the world. That means no single person or company or government is in control. And that's a radical idea that completely changes how we think about money. It's the key to understanding both the massive excitement and the deep-seated fear around Bitcoin.
Okay, so to get to the bottom of this whole debate, we're going to break down the billionaires' perspectives into three main camps. First up, we've got the believers, the ones who see Bitcoin as the new digital gold. Then we'll hear from the skeptics, the folks who famously call it rat poison. And finally, we'll check in with the pragmatists, who think everyone else is kind of missing the point.
All right, let's start with the champions. These are the visionaries who are betting big on a digital future. For them, Bitcoin isn't just another asset, it's the next step in the evolution of money itself.
And you really can't talk about Bitcoin believers without bringing up Elon Musk. As the guy behind Tesla and SpaceX, his eyes are always on the future, and his thinking on currency is no different.
For Musk, it's all pretty simple. He sees physical cash as just outdated tech, and the key phrase here is transfer of value. He's basically arguing that in our digital world, we need a digital money system that's faster, more efficient, and isn't tied down by old physical constraints. To him, Bitcoin is just a better way.
Next up, we have Eric Schmidt, the former CEO of Google. Now, he's looking at Bitcoin not just as an investor, but as an engineer. He's looking under the hood, and he is seriously impressed by the mechanics of it.
And this quote right here, it gets to the very core of the technical argument for Bitcoin. Think about it. Before Bitcoin, anything digital, a photo, a document, a song, could be copied 1 million times perfectly. Bitcoin solved that problem. It created digital scarcity. For the very first time, we had a digital thing that couldn't be faked or spent twice. Schmidt sees that as a massive breakthrough, and that breakthrough, he says, is what gives it real, tangible value. Now, it's one thing for the tech gurus to get excited, but what about Wall Street? Well, meet Abigail Johnson. She's the CEO of Fidelity Investments, one of the largest asset management firms on the planet. And get this, Johnson isn't just talking the talk, she's putting her company's massive resources where her mouth is. She is actively building the bridge from traditional finance into the crypto world. Her company, Fidelity, started offering Bitcoin and Ethereum trading to huge institutional investors way back in 2018. That is a gigantic vote of confidence. It was a signal that Bitcoin wasn't just for tech nerds anymore, it was becoming serious business for Wall Street.
Okay, we've heard from the fans. Now let's flip the coin and see what the other side has to say. And believe me, they do not mince words. These are the titans of traditional investing who look at Bitcoin and see something dangerous, maybe even worthless.
The undisputed king of the skeptics is, of course, the Oracle of Omaha himself, Warren Buffett. His entire legendary career has been built on one simple rule: invest in things that actually create value. And there you have it. Probably one of the most famous and most brutal criticisms of Bitcoin ever. Buffett isn't just being cautious here, he's openly hostile to the whole idea. But why? What's behind such a strong, visceral reaction?
This slide really gets to the heart of his entire argument. For Buffett, a true investment is what he calls a productive asset. A company that makes stuff and earns a profit, or a farm that grows crops. It creates new value. Bitcoin, in his mind, doesn't do any of that. It just sits there. Its price only goes up if you can find someone else, what they call the greater fool, who is willing to pay you more for it later on. That's not investing, Buffett says. That is pure, unadulterated speculation.
Sharing that deep skepticism is another tech legend, Bill Gates. Now, even though he's a giant of the digital revolution, he draws a very hard line when it comes to Bitcoin as an asset.
You hear that? Gates is echoing Buffett's exact same complaint. An asset should produce something. A stock gives you a piece of a company's profits. A bond pays you interest. Bitcoin, he argues, produces absolutely nothing. And when he says he'd short it, meaning he'd bet on its price going down, that tells you just how little faith he has in its long-term value.
But hold on, not everyone fits neatly into the love it or hate it boxes. There's a really interesting third group of billionaires who have a more nuanced take. For them, this whole debate about Bitcoin's price is just a huge distraction from the real revolution.
A leading voice for this group is Jack Ma, the founder of the e-commerce titan Alibaba. This is a guy who built an entire empire on using new tech to completely change how we shop and how we pay for things.
And boom, there it is. That's the pragmatist's position in a nutshell. Jack Ma doesn't really care about Bitcoin, the coin. What he does care about is blockchain, the technology that makes it work. He believes that is the key to building a truly global digital cashless world, which, by the way, is something he's already doing with systems like Alipay.
And in that same camp, you've got people like Larry Ellison, the founder of Oracle. He's fascinated by how this underlying technology can be used for way more than just currency, to revolutionize all sorts of industries.
So for the pragmatists, the crucial thing is making this distinction. They think blockchain is one of the most important inventions of our lifetime, but they're not necessarily sold on Bitcoin, which was just the first, most famous thing built with it. People like Ma, Ellison, and even Mark Zuckerberg want to harness the power of blockchain for their own systems, often in a much more controlled, centralized way.
So, after hearing from the believers, the skeptics, and the pragmatists, where does that leave us? Well, the truth is, the world of big money remains deeply, fundamentally divided on this.
This table really just sums it all up perfectly, doesn't it? You've got believers like Elon Musk and Abigail Johnson who are convinced it's the future. You've got powerful skeptics like Warren Buffett and Bill Gates who see it as a valueless gamble. And then you have the pragmatists like Jack Ma who are saying, hey, you're all looking at the wrong thing. The technology is the real prize. Each argument is powerful, and each one is championed by some of the smartest, most successful people in the world. And that brings us to the final question, the one that really matters. After hearing all these arguments from all sides, what do you think? Is Bitcoin the dawn of a new financial era, like the believers say? Is it a dangerous bubble that's just waiting to pop, like the skeptics warn? Or is it maybe just the first draft, a fascinating experiment whose greatest legacy will be the incredible blockchain technology it introduced to the world? The verdict is still out, and now it's your turn to decide.